This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Casualties feared in car bomb blast in Somali capital. UK Supreme Court gives Nigerian farmers green light to sue Shell over oil spills. And the Democratic Republic of Congo confirms its third case of Ebola in its recent outbreak. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta, live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at other stories making headlines this hour. In business, South Africa is estimated to have lost around $2.5 billion due to COVID-19 induced liquor bans. And in sports, Henri Schoeman's rise to the top of triathlon put on hold by COVID-19. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. So good to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta. Let's begin in Somalia, where a car bomb blast has occurred at a security checkpoint near Parliament headquarters in the capital, Mogadishu. So far, police have reported 7 injuries. Local media and police say an explosive-laden vehicle passed through a security checkpoint, causing security forces to open fire. The vehicle then exploded close to another checkpoint at the Sayidka Junction, meters away from Parliament buildings. No group has claimed responsibility for today's attack. The blast comes less than a week after 12 security agents were killed by a roadside bomb in a Somali town where politicians were trying to resolve an election impasse. All right, Abdulaziz Bello, CGTN's correspondent, joins us now from Mogadishu. Abdulaziz, thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. Let me begin by asking you, Abdulaziz, to give us an update and the latest on the blast.
Well, Richard, the government of Somalia is pinning this attack to the militant group Al-Shabaab that has staged similar attacks in the past. Now, as you've mentioned, the attack took place in early hours of Saturday morning. Saturday is actually the first day of the week here in Somalia. A Toyota Noah vehicle stormed past a security checkpoint at the Dabka Junction. Dabka Junction is very strategic because it's manned by the police. It overran that checkpoint, and the soldiers who are manning that checkpoint opened fire on this vehicle as it sped through the road that links Dabka to that Sayidka Junction. The Sayidka Junction is manned by the military, and it's actually a strategic checkpoint where all vehicles headed to the compound housing the presidential palace, the parliament, and various government agencies have to pass through. So after soldiers opened fire on this vehicle, then locals who was passing by the area, people who are in vehicles, those who are near the checkpoint, managed to run to safety, and the suicide bomber later detonated this vehicle before reaching the other checkpoint. So authorities are attributing the less number of casualties in this attack to the fact that soldiers did open fire on this vehicle while it was speeding towards that particular area. Then the police managed to say that 7 people were injured in that attack, and they were later taken to hospital, and so far there's been no fatalities.
All right, Abdulaziz, that brings me to my next question, and I guess the questions that really need to be asked. Do we know who was being targeted and by whom?
Well, Richard, the checkpoint that leads to the presidential palace is always a target for militant group Al-Shabaab. It's the last checkpoint that ordinary civilians, government officials, lawmakers, government officials all pass through before going to their offices inside the presidential palace. It is also, that compound is very strategic. It houses various ministries. So at any given time, because Saturday is the first day of the week, most people have to go through that checkpoint to be cleared before they enter that secure compound. So at any given time, if there's a blast in that particular area, most of the casualties will be soldiers, government officials, senior civil servants, or maybe government advisors. So at any given time, it's a legitimate target for Al-Shabaab. That checkpoint has been attacked time and again. And in the run-up to the elections, militant group Al-Shabaab is known to increase its attacks here in the capital. Recently, also, it has killed security agents outside Mogadishu in areas like Dusam Mareb. So when the election is quite near, Al-Shabaab says that it has threatened actually the upcoming election. So experts are of the view that this attack is a wake-up call that Al-Shabaab remains a potential threat now that the government is headed towards election, and that security should be of paramount importance now that there is political bickering among leaders who have failed to agree on the elections. Experts are of the view that Al-Shabaab is trying to take advantage of the political crisis that's taking place to launch more attacks and to show that it remains a powerful force.
All right, Abdulaziz, let's pick up on your point regarding the elections. How strongly would you say that this attack is linked to the delayed elections in the country?
Well, the election has been delayed for quite a while now. Leaders are due to meet on the 15th of August. The government says that the meeting should take place in the Puntland's capital of Garowe. The regional leadership there says that they were not consulted on the venue, and instead they want the event moved to the capital, Mogadishu, where members of the opposition and other political stakeholders need to be part of this meeting. But the government insists that this is an issue for the current Somali leadership, that is the regional and federal leadership, to meet and discuss and iron out the issues. So in these scenarios, militant group Al-Shabaab, even in the central town of Dusamareb, it launched mortar attacks during the talks that Somali leaders were meeting there. So Al-Shabaab is of the view that these elections should not take place, and it's trying to curtail it by launching attacks on the leadership that were meeting in Dusamareb. The attack itself near Parliament today is a signal, because Parliament has been meeting in the past couple of days to discuss the electoral crisis after the president did talk to them. So Al-Shabaab is known to try to disrupt polls, and it's not the first time. In 2016, it has done the same, and also in 2012, when the country hosted its first national elections in Somalia, they increased the attacks at the same time like now.
All right, Abdulaziz Bello, thank you so much. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you for keeping a close eye on that story. That's Abdulaziz Bello speaking to us live from Mogadishu. Moving on now. Britain's Supreme Court has ruled that a group of Nigerian farmers and fishermen can sue Royal Dutch Shell plc in English courts over pollution. The Supreme Court said the Court of Appeal materially erred in law when it ruled against the Nigerian claimants back in 2017. Shell had argued that it was not responsible for the actions of its subsidiary in Nigeria. In 2015, more than 40,000 members of Nigeria's Ogale and Bile communities took Shell to court in Britain. They alleged that decades of oil spills damaged their land and destroyed the lives of the people in the Niger River Delta. The case has been closely watched to see whether large corporations can be sued. A Shell spokesman said the decision was disappointing. Shell discovered and started exploiting Nigeria's vast oil reserves in the late 1950s. It has faced heavy criticism over spills and for the company's close ties to government security forces. Friday's ruling comes 2 weeks after a Dutch appeals court ordered Shell's Nigerian subsidiary to compensate farmers in 2 villages for damages caused by leaks in 2004 and 2005. All right, for more on what the Friday ruling means for both Nigeria and the Shell company, we spoke to Dr. Benga Oduntan. He is an associate professor in international commercial law.
This is a decision that stands in support of international environmental law. International environmental law is that part of law that governs natural resources and the framework of sustainable development. So this is good news in that area. It's also good news for Nigeria and for many parts of the Commonwealth, actually, and all the common law countries, because it represents a watershed moment in the accountability of multinational corporations, and also the ability of impoverished and poor communities, indigenous communities around the world, to hold their own against the power of corporate actors. So that's the good news internationally. It's something that will travel around the entire common law world, and also it's a reinforcement of international law. In Nigeria, it should lead to good news. I congratulate the indigenous communities that have followed this case through. It's not been easy. They've suffered setbacks in the past. And now that we have good news, we have a progressive decision by the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. It's something really to look forward to in terms of translating this into action in Nigeria. What it means is that not just Shell, But Nigeria and the Nigerian government precisely now needs to move to the current agenda of international law, which is to make sure that sustainability is at the forefront of exploitation of oil in that country. What it means is that Shell needs to forthwith stop all environmental degradation in the Niger Delta. What it means is that Shell needs to compensate as soon as possible, reach some negotiation with the communities. Else, with this judgment, it is clear that the communities will win a case if this goes to court.
Egypt's Hurghada city hosted another round of Libyan constitutional talks. The talks are aimed at creating a legal foundation for Libya's current political transition. The president of the Elections Commission this week joined the meetings that bring together representatives from rival administrations in the East and the West. Here's Adel El Maroui with more.
The Libyan constitutional talk in Egypt continue to report progress. On Thursday, they announced an agreement over a legal pathway to elections. They approved to hold the general elections on time, even if the interim government fails to hold a constitution referendum before it.
There are logistical complications to holding the referendum. The head of the Elections Commission says it requires at least 7 months in preparations, which makes it hard to hold the referendum before the parliament elections, scheduled for the end of the year.
Legally, if politicians insisted on holding the referendum, they must be prepared for a possible popular rejection of the draft constitution. If that happens, more time will be needed to form a new draft, which could delay the general elections. The constitutional track is made up of representatives from the Eastern Parliament and the Western Council of State. The president of the Libyan Elections Commission has also attended the Hurghada talks this week.
They are looking at ways of including tribes that rejected the referendum or the election. The Hurghada talks need everyone to have their input. This is not the last round of talks because the obstacles are numerous. The Elections Commission can help to bring the spotlight to technical issues not usually considered by politicians. Hurghada aims to make them overcome these issues.
Beside the referendum, representatives have listened to a plan by the Elections Commission for a timeline on issuing voting IDs for eligible voters in Libya. The UN has been strictly sticking to December 24th to hold parliament and presidential elections. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo has confirmed a third new case of Ebola near the city of Butembo in North Kivu province. Local health officials say the latest patient is a 22-year-old woman related to the first case who has died. The WHO says an additional team has been deployed to support local contact tracing in efforts in preparation for vaccination. Now, since the latest outbreak was announced Sunday, nearly 200 contacts have been identified, but authorities have yet to decide if the situation constitutes an epidemic. North Kivu was hit hard by the recent 10th epidemic of the disease, afflicting more than 3,400 people and killing nearly 2,300. And Uganda has heightened its alert level at the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The move comes after an Ebola case was recorded in Butembo, a city in the DRC's North Kivu province. Butembo is 72 kilometers from the Ugandan border. Isabel Nikuria reports.
The Minister of Health says it strengthened its surveillance and preparedness measures at its border with the DRC. Uganda shares a border at Bwera town, putting it at risk of importing the Ebola virus from Butembo, where a case was identified. The new case comes about a year after an outbreak of Ebola was declared to be over in Butembo. The WHO says it's not unusual for new cases to occur after a major outbreak ends. Uganda's health ministry says it's working hard to prevent its possible spread into the country.
The following activities are being undertaken to prevent the importation of Ebola virus disease in Uganda. 1, we have intensified risk communication. 2, we have reactivated the Ebola virus disease district task force. And 3, we dispatched a team of rapid response people to Kasese district, and they will be giving us a comprehensive information on the situation.
The last confirmed Ebola case in Uganda was a Congolese girl who traveled with her mother from the DRC in August 2019. Uganda has now sent health teams to the border to ensure screening measures are followed. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
You are watching Africa Live on CGTN. Time now for a short break. Here's a look at what's ahead. Growing concern in Uganda over the number of COVID-19 infections among school children. And the WHO says the coronavirus did not circulate in Wuhan before it was first reported in December 2019.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Syria,
Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for staying with us. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has sent his Chinese New Year greetings as people welcome the Year of the Ox. In his message, Mnangagwa congratulated China and its people for continued global support.
First of all, allow me to wish the people of China Guo Nian Hao. I hope I have pronounced that correctly. I mean to say Happy New Year in Chinese. Our dear friends of China, these vaccines are certainly providing a new light of positivity for the people of Zimbabwe in these tough times, which have been donated to us by the government and the people of China. A light at the end of a dark tunnel. We are most grateful for this life-saving gesture. From our people to your people, thank you to my brother, President Xi Jinping. And thank you to all the people of China. I understand that this year, the new year for the people of China is the year of the ox. This is fitting. The ox, in our own tradition in Zimbabwe, of course, is a strong, hard-working animal. It is both intelligent and dependable.
The former European Central Bank chief will soon be sworn in as Italy's new prime minister. Mario Draghi has unveiled his new cabinet. It's a mixture of technocrats and politicians from a range of parties. He was asked to form a new administration after the previous government led by Giuseppe Conte collapsed. The U.S. Senate is likely to vote on Saturday on whether to convict or acquit Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial. The former president's defense team finished making its case just hours ago. They argue that the Senate hearing is a political witch hunt. CGTN's Owen Fairclough has more.
Donald Trump was reportedly furious with his defense team's meandering opening address when his impeachment trial began earlier this week. Here was a chance to up the ante.
The article of impeachment now before the Senate is an unjust and blatantly
unconstitutional act of political vengeance.
Their strategy is to accuse Democrats of using impeachment as a political weapon to stop Trump running for president in 2024. A conviction would bar him from public office. And they deny that Trump's call to
fight like hell
to overturn the election results incited supporters to storm Congress, a riot that left 5 people dead.
No thinking person could seriously believe that the president's January 6th speech on the ellipse was in any way an incitement to violence or insurrection.
But Democrats have a powerful visual tool. Newly released security camera footage showing how even Republicans came within meters of a mob who wanted revenge on them for certifying Joe Biden's election victory. A 2/3 Senate majority would be required to convict Trump, and that would mean at least 17 Republicans siding with Democrats. That seemed highly unlikely going into this trial, partly due to Trump's continued influence on the party. But it's clear that the new video footage moved lawmakers on both sides. They include one Republican senator who wanted to block the trial from going ahead before changing his mind, and now won't be drawn on where he stands.
Ask me after I hear the defense. Everybody wants to know what you're going to vote before you know how you're going to vote.
The trial is expected to continue on Saturday before senators vote to convict or acquit Trump. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
The team leader of the WHO's recently concluded mission to China says there were no large clusters of COVID-19 in or around Wuhan prior to December 2019 when the first case was reported. Speaking at a news conference on Friday in Geneva, Peter Ben Emberek said that their visit to Wuhan's laboratories, a marketplace, and suppliers gave them a better understanding of how COVID-19 began in the central Chinese city. But he added that the WHO still had much to discover about the coronavirus.
We have also much better feeling and understanding that there was no widespread and no large cluster of the disease in Wuhan or in elsewhere around Wuhan in the months prior to December 19. So we have much better understanding of what happened. We still are far away from understanding the origin and identifying animal species and all the pathways from which the virus could have entered the human in December.
The WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus also said in the briefing that while the mission would not find all the answers, their findings would provide a closer look at the possible origins of the virus. The WHO will announce their findings soon.
The expert team is working on a summary report, which we hope will be published next week, and the full final report will be published in the coming weeks. We look forward to receiving both reports, which will be released publicly. Some questions have been raised as to whether some hypotheses have been discarded. Having spoken with some members of the team, I wish to confirm that all hypotheses remain open and require further analysis and studies.
There's growing concern in Uganda over the number of COVID-19 infections among school children. The UN Children's Agency reports that in the past 9 months, over 3,800 cases have been detected in children. Schools in the country have partially reopened after close to a year of lockdown. UNICEF is now calling for safe learning and the protection of the most vulnerable children during the pandemic. Isabel Nakuria reports.
Amina Muwonge's daughter has COVID-19. She was sent home from school after her condition got worse. The 12-year-old had been preparing to take her final year exams, which begin next month.
She kept saying, "I'm dying. I feel like my chest is burning. I feel pain in my chest," and she had a bad cough.
Uganda partially opened schools for final year students in October, and more classes are to resume in the coming weeks. Amina's daughter is still not well enough to return to school. Her family is worried about her health, but also concerned that she could miss her exams.
We are scared of taking her back to school when she gets fine. You never know, she could get infected again, or if she still has the virus, she could infect her friends. We are too confused on whether to take her back or not.
The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, has been encouraging countries to reopen schools. The agency says that closures have had a devastating impact on the education of millions of children. But it's urged schools to implement safety measures and be able to respond to possible future crises. The Ugandan government says it's taking steps to contain the spread of the virus.
We have integrated mechanisms for surveillance within the schools. This might not be testing-based surveillance, but it will be based on signs and symptoms as they emerge.
Uganda has recorded a drop in new COVID-19 cases in the last month, but health officials warn of a second wave in the coming weeks. School heads said the lockdowns caused a financial strain for schools, impacting on their levels of preparedness. And as more children report back to school, observing the safety measures may be difficult. Apart from hand washing and temperature checks, parents are demanding that more is done to avoid a rise in infections.
As you look around our school, we have much sensitization. We have pinned the banners around the school, giving information about the virus, and we shall further conduct such awareness campaigns to the learners as they come in, and even them advise them further on how to start a new life, since they had spent 7 months without having lessons with us.
The government has listed teachers among essential groups of people to receive the vaccine once it arrives. Uganda ordered 18 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccines from India, but the first doses are not expected to arrive for several weeks. Despite the impact on her daughter's education, parents like Amina remain unconvinced about whether it was the right decision to reopen schools. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
It may be the Chinese New Year, but a medical team from China currently working in South Sudan's capital won't be taking any time off. The team at the Juba Teaching Hospital says the high demand for medical services is keeping them busy. CGTN's Patrick Oyet reports.
It is a holiday in China, but it is business as usual for this medical team in Juba. The team sees more than 200 patients a day, and although they are a long way from home, they are happy to be helping those in need.
It's already a new year, but COVID is here. There are many health challenges here, but we are doing what we can to help the people of South Sudan.
The team is also training local medical staff on how to use some of the new machines installed at the hospital. This is the 7th Chinese medical team dispatched to South Sudan since 2011. The team also takes time off from their busy schedule at the hospital to occasionally visit places like this orphanage to spend time with the disadvantaged in the society. The medical team is donating a number of items to the orphanage.
They brought for us sanitizers, masks, soaps, and these are really some of the preventive items we require just to try our best and keep off the COVID pandemic infection.
All involved hope the relationship will last for many years to come. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Our coverage continues on Africa Live. Time now for our business segment. Here's a look at what's ahead. In business, South Africa is estimated to have lost around $2.5 billion due to COVID-19 induced liquor bans. And Egypt demands that all banks and listed companies maintain at least one female director on their boards.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back, everyone, to Africa Live. We appreciate your company. Let's turn our attention to South Africa, where the country's alcohol industry is estimated to have lost up to $2.5 billion in sales revenue due to the ban on alcohol sales. The ban is also estimated to have cost the country 200,000 jobs across formal and informal sectors. Advisory firm FTI Consulting said the cost of the total bans has trimmed about 30% of sales opportunities and 1.1 billion liters in sales volumes. Overall alcohol sales declined by almost 17% in 2020 compared to 2019. FTI added that the state has incurred losses estimated at $2 billion in tax revenue and $593 million in direct excise revenue loss. Air Namibia has suspended all operations after a government decision to file for a voluntary liquidation. The airline has failed to turn around its fortunes despite years of state bailouts. Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi said about $569.8 million has been spent to bail out the airline in the past 10 years. Air Namibia said all flight operations will be canceled with all aircraft returning to base. Lawyers representing Air Namibia and Belgian company Challenge Air SA reached an agreement to have the carrier liquidated.
The decision to liquidate Air Namibia was not taken lightly. All options were explored to find a lasting solution that is in the best interest of the airline, the best interest of the country, and the best interest of future generations. We have to take and endure some short-term pains for the prosperity of the Republic.
And Nigeria's Securities and Exchange Commission has halted plans to regulate cryptocurrencies until investors are able to open bank accounts in the country. This comes after the Central Bank of Nigeria ordered the closure of accounts dealing in cryptocurrencies. The SEC changed its stance after receiving queries related to policy conflicts between the two regulators. Nigeria is one of the top countries in Africa with crypto penetration. According to market data compiled by CoinDance, over 60,000 bitcoins were traded in Nigeria in the last 5 years. An increase in COVID-19 related borrowing is pushing Uganda's debt burden higher. According to the Ministry of Finance, a rise in expenditure requirements to support the government's response to the coronavirus has necessitated higher than expected borrowing. Latest figures show Uganda's total public debt grew from $12.6 billion at the end of June 2019 to $15.3 billion by June 2020. This figure is projected to go higher this year. CGTN's Michael Baleke reports.
A second wave of coronavirus pandemic is sweeping through Africa, and the number of cases is rising sharply, according to the World Health Organization. A debt sustainability analysis report authored by Uganda's Ministry of Finance indicates that an increase in COVID-19 related borrowing is likely to grow the country's public debt.
Demands of expenditure have gone up because of COVID. They have gone up. Yet, the revenue to meet those expenses.
Uganda is also borrowing to finance transport and oil and gas infrastructure. The drive for new credit is expected to push Uganda's public debt from 41% in the last year to 54% by the end of 2022-2023 financial year, according to government projections. But the finance minister says the government is cautiously taking on new credit.
We will not go over the cliff. We are watching carefully everything that we are doing. You know, we are not supposed to go beyond the threshold of 50 of our GDP. So we are not very far from 50, but I want to assure you that we shall not go overboard.
Uganda has close to 40,000 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 virus, and at least 328 people have died. The spread of more contagious COVID-19 variants is raising more fears and could have far-reaching implications on Uganda's economy which has already experienced disruptions in trade, like decline in exports and imports. Last year, Uganda enforced a lockdown to check the spread of COVID-19. This led to a decline in economic activity, resulting in revenue shortfalls, a move that has triggered the need for credit to kickstart the economy.
We have two choices as a country. One, cut expenditure tremendously. We don't need to look at few things. No, cut the appetite to spend.
But the government says it will now prioritize short-term loans in order to reduce the cost of debt. Ugandan authorities also plan to put in place initiatives to boost exports, to increase foreign currency inflows, but also reduce outflows by promoting import substitution. Mike Kobaleke, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Egypt is taking steps to enforce workplace diversity in the business sector by increasing female representation at the highest levels in companies. The central bank and the stock market are demanding that all banks and listed companies have at least one female director on their boards. CGTN's Yasser Hakim reports from Cairo.
Dalia Sawah is the managing director of an engineering company and chairperson of a trade and investment firm in Egypt. She has climbed the ladder from the bottom to the top of the business echelon, and it wasn't easy.
I want to tell you that I'm the only female director in the whole company. The community and culture is male-oriented, which was a challenge for me and any woman who wanted to prove herself. But lately, a law was ratified to ensure more women representation in parliament, in government and other fields. The last 4 years saw a marked improvement in this direction. Places where more women took leading roles have seen significant expansion and growth.
The government's drive to empower women in business has picked up steam during the last year and has been encouraging businesses to give opportunities to more women to assume managerial positions. Already, the central bank and the stock market have issued a directive that requires all banks and listed companies to hire at least one female on their boards or face delisting from the stock market.
Currently, 53% of listed companies have at least one female on their boards compared to 47% in 2019. Also, an application called Empowering Women has been set up by the government. It compiles a database of CVs and resumes of women with experience and careers to help companies locate and hire female candidates for executive positions on a regular basis. We have a plan and strategy to ensure women representation will reach 25% by end of next year.
And the target is not only getting more board members, but also empowering women to lead small and medium-sized enterprises.
The state is giving extra attention to the SMEs and considers it the backbone of economic development. The Ministry of Planning is providing training courses, diplomas and skills for women to be able to manage the small projects. 50% of SME loans are provided to women, and statistics show that they have been more consistent in repaying loans than men. Less than 1% of women have defaulted.
From her personal experience, Dalia feels women have a better chance now to succeed than before.
A woman is ambitious by nature, and whenever she finds support, it encourages her to achieve more. The opportunities we are afforded now gives us the strength to improve our skills and to reach higher grounds. Women have more potential than men. A woman has the talent of multitasking, and this is scientifically proven. My advice for any woman is to discover her inner talent, develop her skills, and create targets to achieve. Set up a plan and make it a reality, regardless of the challenges you face.
Meanwhile, more state funding is in the pipeline to support female entrepreneurs as the drive continues for a better status for women in Egypt. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
E-hailing platform Bolt has launched a women-only service in South Africa that enables female passengers to request rides from female drivers. South Africa has one of the highest statistics of gender-based violence in the world. Bolt is hoping to provide a service that will help keep women of all ages safer as they move around. CGTN's Richard Nta has more.
Bolt ran a pilot in November and December 2020 to test the market and see how best it could transport females in particular. The new ride offering has now been introduced in 10 cities across the country.
It's a category that you can find in the Bolt app, where women are able to request trips only with other women drivers. So more than 50% of the passengers on our platform are women. However, less than 5% of the drivers are women.
The new offering is an ideal win-win in terms of safety for both female passengers and drivers.
It's really comfortable for me as a driver because I'm driving a female, maybe with the kids or with her sisters, because a female rider cannot request this with her husband. It has to be her. It makes me relax when driving because I don't have to worry about the person behind me. You know, especially when driving a man, you know, when men need attention, when they want to draw your attention, they want to touch you or tap you, like, hi, hello, and those uncomfortable and those questions.
While this is an important and necessary initiative, its success remains to be seen. Last year, a young entrepreneur from Cape Town started a similar initiative, but was threatened by taxi drivers and forced to close down.
The transport industry in South Africa can be competitive and ruthless. Taxi violence is an ongoing issue as drivers fight over routes. The industry is also majority run by men. Women are often forced to travel under these circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, in South Africa, unfortunately, we live in a violent society. So we do whatever we can to mitigate those risks on our platform. We screen every driver before they come onto the platform to see, do they have a professional driver's permit? Then they need to do a criminal background check. And then there is the rating system that is in place for every single trip.
Over the years, we have developed tricks as women in terms of taking the number plates. We had to make fake phone calls inside the car so to scare the driver because you don't know, especially at night. So we've had those situations happening where you're scared inside the car, you're not completely relaxed. So now with this feature, it's safe, I feel, and it's going to be easier for women to relax when they request these services.
Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Time now for another short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more news. Here's what's coming up. China cinemas surge back to record box office levels as the Lunar New Year holidays unfolds.
Join us in global business and see Africa through our eyes.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to Africa Live. In China, the Year of the Ox, which began February the 12th, will be celebrated across the country until the end of the month. In Zhejiang and Jiangsu provinces, cultural performances included the dragon dance and stilt walking, and they are attracting audiences. Better believe it. Streets nationwide have been decorated with flowers, lights, and lanterns. Families also enjoy local delicacies shaped like flowers. Our reporter Chi Jie has more about creative celebration activities.
These are students from Hong Kong and Macau who stayed put in Guangzhou to celebrate the Chinese New Year due to pandemic travel restrictions. In appreciation, the local government initiated activities over the holidays for them.
We've organized the various activities to provide an even more festive New Year for those who stayed in Guangzhou for the holiday, including students from Hong Kong and Macau, overseas students, deliverymen, and the people who are from the pandemic-hit areas. The government has also subsidized over 10 million yuan and offered over 7,000 part-time job vacancies to make sure that they have a happy holiday in Guangzhou.
At the Youth Culture Center in downtown Guangzhou, students are trying their hand at traditional Chinese crafts.
I'm really interested in traditional Chinese culture, like the sugar painting over there. I'd like to give a try too. I also want to go and visit workshops for handicrafts. Looks like fun.
I love the festive atmosphere here in Guangzhou. It's more fun and I can also have some hands-on experiences.
Meanwhile, in the ice and snow world of China, artists in Harbin, the capital of Heilongjiang province, are in a competition to find out who's the fastest to carve an ox. At night, neon lights on buildings and skyscrapers in Chinese cities light up the sky. CGTN.
Speaking of celebrations, actors from Bollywood in India and Nollywood in Nigeria have been collaborating on a film to celebrate cross-cultural love. The movie Namaste Wahala will debut on Netflix on Valentine's Day. CGTN's Joy Karuki Juma with the details.
This is Raj, my cousin.
Namaste Wahala, a film title that translates as Hello Trouble in Hindi and Nigerian pidgin. It is a film about a Nigerian woman who falls in love with an Indian investment banker in Lagos. The young couple faces various challenges in their quest to be together.
It is very important to make films like these, wherein you show cross-cultural love stories, because in every country, people just separate each other, as far as religion is concerned, and especially in India, you can't marry somebody if they're from a different religion or a different caste.
I think the thing I love the most are the underlying messages, which is like, the beauty in embracing your similarities, the beauty in embracing love, even if you're from different backgrounds. It has a very strong woman empowerment theme.
Hamisha Dariani Ahuja is the brains behind the movie. Ahuja gave up running her Indian-Nigerian restaurant to pursue her dreams of making movies.
I wanted to do something that would be more relatable here. So it's a full-on Nollywood movie, but I brought in some Indian actors to make it a little bit more fun. And what I tried to do is the 90s style Bollywood. So I don't know if you remember back in the day, the singing and dancing around trees. We have all of that. It's a very cheesy, mushy, romantic drama, which I'm very passionate about.
I'm Raj. The production was completed before coronavirus restrictions made movie making difficult. For Ahuja, this is a dream come true. Born of Indian parents, Ahuja has lived most of her life in Nigeria.
I've lived in an Indian house. I know the Nigerian culture, the pidgin, the food, and it's so interesting how, even though everybody thinks, even with Namaste Wahala, the cultures are so different, we're actually so similar. We're actually all one, and that's sort of the theme of the whole movie, that we are all one.
Shot mostly in English, the film has a production team of over 50 people from India and Nigeria. Ahuja says she hopes to create a sequel in the coming months. Joy Kirukijuma, CGTN.
And we are not done just yet. We've got your sports news coming up after the break. Here's a peek at the headlines. In sports, Henri Schoeman's rise to the top of triathlon put on hold by COVID-19.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome into Sport on Africa Live. Let's start with athletics. Henri Schoeman claimed a spot on the podium in the Olympic triathlon in 2016. 2 years later, he stood on the top step at the same event at the Commonwealth Games. Ever since, the triathlete has been targeting the highest step in all his races. But 2020 put a dramatic halt to his ascent in the sport and brought him back down to earth. Here is CGTN's Yes Duplessis with more.
Many athletes took a knock in 2020, not only financially but also mentally. And for Olympic bronze medalist Henri Schoeman, it was physical too, as he struggled to overcome the effects of COVID-19. 6 months later, the 28-year-old is back to full fitness and fully focused on the year ahead.
It's exciting that we're going into another year with the Olympics on the horizon of it. So it's exciting. Yes, we're in this pandemic, everything is still uncertain, but I'm trying not to think about it or get too much into the news of, is it going ahead, is it not going ahead? I just want to go flat out training, be the best version of myself come July 2021 at the Olympics.
The IOC is attempting to make the vaccine available to athletes in order to ensure the Olympics go ahead, but it has been met with different opinions from all athletes. For the 2018 Commonwealth Games gold medal winner, it's all about the big picture.
I think there are mixed emotions out there. There's athletes for it, there's athletes against it. Me personally, I would like the vulnerable people to have access to it first. If there are enough for the athletes to have before the Olympics, then that's great, that's amazing. I would love the Olympics to go ahead, but we are in a bit of a crisis right now, and sometimes there are things bigger than the Olympics.
Schoeman competed in the US and Europe towards the end of 2020 and believes he is much stronger than he was previously, and although swimming is his strength, his running is now taking shape at just the right time in his career.
Gold would mean everything. That's what I've wanted all my life, as far as I can remember while doing sport and knowing about the Olympics. So to be an Olympic champion is the ultimate, and I'm training incredibly hard and doing everything that I can to the best that I can to bring it home for South Africa.
The first South African to win an Olympic medal in the triathlon says he has used 2020 to improve other aspects of his 3 disciplines that he never had time to work on before. And now with the Games in Tokyo less than 200 days away, Schoeman is more motivated than ever to make history again and bring back the first ever triathlon gold for the Rainbow